Mount Rushmore doesn't look carved. It looks inevitable. But it wasn't made by artists. It was built by miners with explosives and a measuring system older than Rome. A system designed not just to shape stone, but to make information survive. And things don't become inevitable. They're planned, slowly, deliberately, by people thinking far beyond their own. In the early 1920s, South Dakota barely did. People passed through. They didn't stop. And Doane Robinson, he wasn't dreaming about art. He saw what worked elsewhere. Big stone, big scale, national attention. If something is large enough, people have to loo. So he called Gutzon Borglum. The first idea was small, local heroes, Wild West figures. Borglum listened. Then he said no, not because it was wrong, but because it wouldn't last. He understood something simple. If you want permanence, don't build something people need to learn. Build something they already recognize. Presidents, not because they're perfect, not because they're loved, but because they're already fixed in the public mind. This wasn't about beauty, it was about memory, about creating a symbol that could survive politics, borders, and time itself. Mount Rushmore didn't begin as art. It began as a solution to disappearing. And Borglum, he wasn't thinking in years, he wasn't thinking in generations, he was thinking in centuries. And when someone thinks that far ahead, they don't just ask how something will look, they ask what it will hold. Once the idea was set, the faces, the scale, the permanence, the next decision mattered more than people realize. The mountain. Borglum wasn't looking for beauty, he was looking for something that wouldn't fail. Fine-grained granite, stable, predictable, stone that could take explosives without collapsing in on itself. Mount Rushmore wasn't chosen. It was chosen because it could be trusted. If you're planning something to last for centuries, you don't carve into something fragile. You choose a material that behaves, a mountain that doesn't surprise you when you start tearing it apart. Rushmore wasn't scenery, it was a container. Before any face appeared, there was a problem. Nothing up there worked, no roads, no power, no safe way to stand on that cliff and come back down. So they built the system first. Roads to move material, workshops to fix tools, blacksmiths on site, staircases cut into rock, cable cars strung across open air, and winch houses, lowering men on small seats down the face of the mountain. This wasn't art yet. It was logistics, an industrial operation hanging off a cliff. Only after that system existed, only after it could run every day, did they start thinking about faces. Because nothing about Mount Rushmore was done freehand. Everything had to work before it could look right. Most people imagined chisels. That's not what happened. Almost all of this was blown away. 90%. Explosives did the work, not carving, removal. They weren't shaping faces yet. They were subtracting mass, carefully. Large sections of granite detached on purpose. The goal wasn't detail, it was accuracy. Get the volume right. Get the silhouette right. Only then do you worry about noses, eyes, expressions. From the ground, the faces rise 60 feet. Washington's nose, 21. The eyes, 11. That scale changes everything, because once you start blasting at that size, you don't get second chances. This wasn't sculpture, it was controlled demolition. Breaking granite was easy. Knowing when to stop wasn't. The workers weren't artists, they weren't allowed to guess. 1 foot too far, and the face was gone. You couldn't sketch it, You couldn't project it. You couldn't feel your way through stone that thick. Every hole had to be drilled in the right place, to the right depth, the first time. No revisions, no corrections. Which raises the real question, not how they broke the rock, but how anyone knew where to stop. Because at that scale, intuition isn't skill, it's a liability. They solved the problem the old way, not with intuition, not with talent, with measurement. Borglum built a model, 1 to 12 scale, 1 inch here, 1 foot there. Then he borrowed an idea older than Rome, a Greek pointing system, 3 values, angle, horizontal distance, vertical distance. You measure a point on the model, multiply by 12, and that exact point appears on the mountain. Not approximately, exactly. They marked thousands of these points, each one telling the workers where to drill and how deep. They weren't carving faces, they were translating information. And once you realize that, this stops being art, it becomes data. The men didn't design anything, they followed instructions. 8 hours a day. Hanging on ropes, pay varied by job, some later said around $8 a day. No one died falling, no one died blasting. But dust doesn't care how careful you are. The most dangerous detail was the eyes. Cut too deep, and the rock could fail. Leave a small square, and light does the rest. From far away, they look alive. Up close, they're a risk. Precision has a cost. Most people think Mount Rushmore was finished. It wasn't. Behind Lincoln's head, there's a doorway, a tunnel, 70 feet long, cut between 1938 and 1939. Then abandoned. They called it the Hall of Records. Officially, it was meant to store documents. The war came, money disappeared. Everything stopped. In 1998, a small repository was placed there, a kind of time capsule. We know how the faces were made, we know how the data was transferred. The question isn't what's inside the tunnel, it's why a project this precise needed a doorway at all. So now we know, not the myths, not the postcards, the system. We know how the stone was removed, how the measurements were transferred, how information was turned into form. None of it was accidental, none of it was improvised. It was planned, long before the first blast. And when people plan that far ahead, they usually plan for something else too. Something beyond faces, beyond visibility, something meant to last after the builders are gone. Maybe the tunnel is empty. Maybe it only holds records, or symbols, or intentions that never made it past the war. Or maybe that doorway was never about what's inside it. Maybe it was about the idea that something should be there. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm just saying, when a project is this precise, this measured, this controlled, nothing is added without a reason. Look at the faces, then look at the mountain. And remember, some structures are built to be seen. Others are built to remember something long after we forget why they were built at all. We figured out how they carved the faces. The harder question is, what else they planned for.